Hi, I'm Chris Hoy, and these are my top tips for choosing the right bike for your child. Now, the first thing you want to consider is the size of the bike. The temptation always is to buy a bike that's a little bit too big so your child can grow into it, but the risk of doing that is that the bike is a bit unwieldy, it's a bit difficult to handle, it can almost be dangerous at times if they're not able to stop in time and operate the brakes. So always buy a bike that fits your child now, but you can find out the right size by looking at the size charts and buying an appropriately sized bike that they can ride, that they have fun on, and they have confidence with. Tip number 2 would be to get as light a bike as possible for the money. Now, getting a bike that's made from aluminium, from the frame is made from aluminium, good quality components, the bike will be lighter, easier to stop, to start, to handle, and your child will have more fun and they'll pick up the basics far quicker than if the bike weighs an absolute ton. A lot of bikes come with add-ons that aren't really necessary for children, like suspension forks or extra bits and bobs that really do nothing other than add a bit of styling to it. So I would always recommend get the bike as light, as simple, and as high quality as possible. Now, the third thing you want to consider is the price. Now, the temptation obviously is always to go for the cheapest bike you can get, but the risk with doing that is that you're going to get lower quality components, there's going to be heavier materials used, it's not going to be as fun to ride, it's not going to be as easy to ride as a lighter, better quality bike. And actually, if you buy a cheap bike, you try and sell it once your child has used it and they've outgrown it, it's not going to be worth much. But if you go for a higher quality, higher priced bike, they hold their value better residual value, or you could pass it down to a younger sibling because they last longer, they're more robust, and they're more fun to ride. So always go for the best bike that you can afford with the best quality components and the best materials used for the frame. Always make sure that you buy a bike that's fit for purpose. So if your child isn't going to be riding off-road at all, if they're not going to be going mountain biking or going over jumps or doing anything that's too extreme, you might want to consider a bike with narrower tyres, thinner tyres, that's a bit lighter, that goes a bit faster on the tarmac, they can have a bit more fun riding on the road or bike paths. But if they're going to be going off-road, then you want to get something with wider tyres, thicker tyres, a bit of tread to give them grip, and also the geometry changes, it makes it easier to handle if they are going over bumps. I've got to kind of be in my bonnet about suspension for kids' bikes. I really am not a big believer that kids should have suspension forks at a young age. I think it's great to learn the basics, to be able to absorb the bumps with their arms and their legs, and to get full control over the bike. And often the suspension forks are just there for styling. They're not really doing much, and you've got to be putting a lot of weight through them to get them to move. So yeah, I would say they add weight, they add cost, and I would say avoid them.